Well, I now describe myself, and I have done for some time, as an ecological economist. I had a very rigorous training in economics back in the 60s, and my interest in environment developed then. And then over the intervening decades, this term ecological economics has emerged to describe the view that it's important to understand economies as subsystems of the biosphere, or biogeosphere, whatever you want to call it, biosphere for short, which means that the economy fundamentally depends upon the biosphere for the sources of all its materials and energy. It has to comply with the first and second laws of thermodynamics, which means that the materials and energy get used but don't disappear. They ultimately get disposed of back into the environment, most very rapidly, by the way. Some is retained in the economy for a while, but it's basically a flow-through operation. And that the scale on which this is now happening is such that the impacts on the biosphere of the human economy are so tremendous that we have to rethink our economic system and our economic structures and so on, very much along the lines that you've intimated in your introductory remarks, Michael. So that's how I fundamentally see economics, and I think it's suffering now from having drawn the boundaries in the wrong place, because it excludes, by and large, the inflows and outflows of materials and energy. And by the way, it doesn't pay much attention to the transformation of space, the destruction of landscapes and loss of habitat and implications for other species. So there's a lot of rethinking of economics going on, and I try to contribute to that, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment. In terms of, well, I made a few notes, so I'll have to look occasionally to see what I said to myself about the purpose of the economy and is there an end goal. I don't think there's an end goal. I think the purpose of the economy is along the lines you've outlined, at least it ought to be, and that is to provide the means whereby all of us can flourish within the conditions of the planet. Now, what that means, what flourishing means is, I think, culturally specific and depends on time and place, and it's not for any one person such as me to say what that means for everybody else. And I think the interpretation of that term, flourishing within a finite planet, will change over time. But I think as a basic principle, it's not a bad thing, a bad way to approach it. But I don't think there's an end goal to which all this is leading, and finally humanity will say, well, we've succeeded.